Hi, I'm Katie Barr, and this is Boca Matters. COVID-19 might mean quarantine for all of us, but city governance doesn't stop. Joining us today is Councilperson Andrea Levine O'Rourke. She'll be giving us an update on city issues. Hello, Councilwoman. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Katie. It's so good to see you.
I know, it's great to see you.
Yes.
So I suppose we're all adjusting to being home alone, or possibly not alone. Can you tell us a little bit about how the quarantine impacted the city as far as your role as a city council person?
Well, I think Boca showed real leadership. We saw this happening on Friday the 13th. That of all days,
Right.
when we as a city decided to shut down the beaches and the parks and the boat ramp, which has been a big topic of conversation. So the order actually came down from the city manager. With the city manager, strong city manager form of government. Some cities, like you'll see in New York City, big cities, they might have a
Mhm.
strong mayor form of government. We all participate, we do legislate, we make policy, but executive orders generally, like you'll see in a hurricane or something, will come from the city manager's office. We have a very strong city manager office. Our manager's been here a very long time. His assistants and deputies have been there a very long time, has had the legal department. So those heads come together and say, this is what we think we should do for the safety of the city. He confers with the city council, but we're in sunshine. We rule under Florida sunshine law. So the city council, unless there is a meeting, publicly noticed meeting, we as city council members can't get together and have this conversation. One of my colleagues brought up yesterday at our workshop, perhaps we should set up so that we have emergency meetings on occasion for
Mhm.
situations like this. We have to think about public notice, and we've just gotten virtual set up. We really couldn't have done this 2 weeks ago.
It's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, so within a 2 week period, the IT department, which we really have an amazing staff all around in the city, the IT department got their heads together. They got the newly elected sworn in virtually, and then we were able
Right.
to conduct a meeting with the five of us all being able to see and speak publicly yesterday.
I think the city is fortunate in that we have a crew, a city council crew, that you're all bonded already. You know, you've all worked together. There's nobody new on the council, so you can hit the ground running during this time of crisis.
Yes, I think that's really a good point. I mean, I hadn't necessarily thought of it. What did come up yesterday is we did our what we call our organizational meeting. So whenever there's an election, we then every year, well, not even with an election, every year we do an organizational meeting. During that meeting, we decide who's the deputy mayor, who's the CRA chair, who represents at the TBA, which is a transportation organization, and so forth. So we decided. To keep everything as it was. I will remain the community redevelopment chairperson. Jeremy Rogers will be the deputy mayor. We have who will cover the other boards who already has, just to keep the continuity. Now is not the time. Some people thought we should keep switching it up, and that is a good idea each year to kind of rotate. But maybe this year isn't the year to do it. Let's worry about other things right now and keep the
Right.
continuity.
Good thinking. Do you think now that virtual meetings, city council meetings, might become a little more normal so that there'll be less absentee people during meetings? It's not frequent, but there are occasions where a council person can attend a meeting.
Well, yeah, I really can't think of a meeting. Well, one meeting I can think, but I can't think of too many meetings where any of us have not come to a meeting, because basically that's our job. We may do a lot of other things and be out in the public and be talking to people and answering emails, but our job is to be at meetings. So I think that being together is important to have that connection. Although the fact that we're able to do this virtually, I think is amazing and really helps us keep the engine going.
Right.
So I do think in general, the idea of virtual meetings, aside from city legislation, I think that I think this might be a turning point, and it might be one of the things that we always talk about: traffic and cars on the road. I think more people might do meetings from home or meetings from their office and not hop in the car,
Yes.
3 times a day,
Yeah.
and so I think there's going to be unintended consequences, probably for the good and the bad.
I agree with that. So now, as the city council continues to meet virtually, are there priorities as far as what's on the agenda?
So this week, since it's our first one, we really have no major content as far as development, approving developments or amendments, zoning amendments or anything like that. Tonight will be what we call our consent agenda. The consent agenda is really things that we basically automatically approve. It's already
Mhm.
been looked at. The city manager says, well, we need to buy a bucket truck for the fire department, or we're doing a contract with an engineering firm, and it's things like that. We might need new sod or things like that. So we will have consent agenda items tonight at our meeting. We have no content other than that, other than public comment. Now, every meeting always is public, what we call public request, and any person in the community from anywhere is able to come to a meeting virtually or in person and
Right.
have their 5 minutes at the microphone, and that will be available tonight. So I have a feeling it'll be more conversation about how we're dealing with what we're dealing with, how we maybe I'm not sure it's time to talk about how we come out of this, but having that conversation is a good idea.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I think even in people's personal work life, we're all thinking, what's the next step?
Right.
What happens when this is over? And perhaps, like you say, virtual will become the new reality.
Maybe I think in some ways it might. I think more people may attend meetings if they don't have to
Right.
be going from here to there. So we'll see how that happens. I mean, I think we'll get back to business as usual as quickly as we can, because it's hard for our planners. Our planners are working from home, so there's papers, there's things you need to
Right.
access that are in the office. So we will probably have a very pent up demand for people to be on the agenda for the
Mhm.
approval process. And it's this will slow down certain things that people have invested money in and are planning to do, and our process is we can only get so many things on an agenda. We can't have every meeting go till 2 in the morning, covering every
Right.
issue. So
Right.
that part will be a whole nother comeback. How do we start? Who's first come, first serve? Who's in line? How do we address issues of real content that we have to make legislative decisions on? So that will be next. That won't be this meeting, but hopefully we meet the second Monday and Tuesday and the fourth Monday and Tuesday of every month, and so the meeting at the end of April will probably have a little more content. I don't
And do
know.
you think the impact on small businesses in the city is that something the CRA would be more concerned with, or city government in general?
We don't have we haven't put together any kind of personal city grant program. We'll be working with the state. We'll be working with the county. We'll do what we can. We'll certainly support our small businesses to the best that we can.
Hmm.
Promoting restaurants. It's on the city website. I think the businesses, if they can keep themselves going for this a couple of months, they'll be back up. Our manicurists will be back working. The small flower shop will be back working. Small businesses, they'll be back working. So if they just hopefully can get their grants, if they didn't have the wherewithal to carry themselves, to get them through this difficult period. I think it might affect large businesses as much or more
Sure.
than small business, because large business has tremendous investments and
Right.
investors. And do
Hmm.
people know how they want to invest in the future? Our futures, my next question is, what's the new normal going to look like?
Right. Right. Councilwoman, there's been a lot of discussion about the boat ramp. I know there are some commercial fishermen that want to get out there. What can you tell us about that?
Well, at this time, the boat ramp is still closed. At the very beginning of the shutdown of everything, Lake Boca immediately became a problem. We could see boats were tied up together. There was no social distancing. It became a real center of attention. We had already closed the boat ramp, so people were coming in from other areas. After that happened, I think it might have been on March. We closed on March 13th. I think on March 18th, the county then came in and said all boat ramps, marinas would be closed to the public. At that time, in Boca Raton, I think we had, my numbers might be off, I think we had about 6 commercial fishermen license. Between that time and this time, there's 300 and some odd commercial Boca Raton. So we are really protecting our staff, our police, our first responders. Yes, we have someone sitting at the boat ramp, because if we don't, people are fishing off of there, and it's just about personal distance. I hate to even call it social distance, because we're working social now, but it's about respecting the space between people, and people want to be near each other. So we haven't had the ability to do that. We had a little bit of a hearty discussion about that yesterday at our workshop, and I personally don't feel ready to do that. I think that it could be one of the first things we do when we feel like we are ready to come out and emerge from this pandemic and this quarantine. And maybe we can, one of the council members suggested maybe they have times where they come, because whoever's at that boat ramp, if we just open it up to boaters, will be inundated.
Yes.
There's no question. What I've learned about this community is people love their recreation. I have heard very little complaints from business owners. They've taken this in their stride. But the people that want to recreate and be on the beach and be out on the water just haven't given up. They want to be out there. And I sympathize. I don't see it happening this week. Maybe that's a conversation we can look at, in another couple of days. If we could organize it so we could have someone out there to check the licenses, make sure who gets out there has their license, and that there's not that many, because it will get crowded. There's no question about it. And to do all of the work we've done up till now, almost a month later, to come out too quickly, I think would be a mistake. I think we have to have a very measured approach. And we're looking at the parks too. People want open space. We can start to open the parks at some point, hopefully soon, but maybe not the restrooms, maybe not the tennis courts, maybe not where people pair up and are together, but where they can recreate a little bit. So I think that will be the next thing on the agenda. Well, we're just not quite there yet. Yeah.
Well, we hope that you'll come back and join us once again and keep us updated. I just have one last question for you, Councilwoman. How is the first dude holding up?
The first dude right now is locked in his room on the other side of our home. So anyway, I've got him locked up in a back room. First dude's been working on helping people through the grant process, because he understands how it works, and he's been working with some small business people that I knew that I thought he may be able to help, and he's been doing that. So that's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, give him our best, and our best to you as well. And thank you.
I'm walking behind me to get a cup of coffee.
Thanks for joining us, Andrea.
You're doing well, and I appreciate you checking in. We're thinking of you. We're thinking of everyone, and I want to thank Boca First for being out there every single day and getting information out to the public. I'm doing the best I can, but I can't get all of the information to everybody, and I think you're doing a stellar job. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Well, that's it for today, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us, and keep your browser set to bocafirst.org.